Let me tell you, I've heard about neighbor horror stories, but nothing prepared me for the 7-day psychological war Crystal Stewart launched the second I set foot in Whispering Pines. "Get out of my house," she screamed, right there on my lawn, like the HOA had deputized her with power of attorney over my life. She called the cops before I'd even finished moving my couch inside. But you know what still gets me? When that cop, Officer Harris, looked her dead in the eye and said, "Ma'am, I've responded to several tenant calls from your address. So what seems to be the problem?" It was the first time I saw fear flicker in Crystal's eyes. That was the crack that would turn into a full-on landslide. But right then, I was too busy wondering what I'd done to deserve this circus. That here's the setup. 32 years old, sporting goods business sold for just shy of $1 million, ready to retire early, the dream. For $280,000, I bought a slice of lakeside heaven, even snagged a cheap rental property through my LLC to cover some bills, thinking, hey, why not add Landlord to my resume? Big mistake. Because the second I started unloading boxes, Crystal stormed over like the ghost of HOA presidents past. Expensive yoga pants, a camera swinging from her neck, and a look that said she'd rather find a bear in her garden than a new neighbor in her domain. From day one, she was on a mission. Snap, snap, snap. Photos of everything from my license plate to the shade of my mailbox, which, she later claimed, violated community standards. She didn't even say hello, just jumped straight to "you don't belong here." I tried to play it cool. "Hey, I just bought this place." She ignored that, turned to her phone, and called 911. Live, right there, accusing me of stealing my own house. Officer Harris showed up looking like a man who's seen too much. While Crystal spun stories about how I was a threat to the community, I handed him my title, mortgage, even my insurance docs, like a kid showing his homework to a teacher who doesn't care. Harris barely glanced at her, gave me a quick nod, and told her flat out, "Ma'am, if you keep this up, I'll charge you with harassment." Crystal's eyes went wide. For a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. But Crystal wasn't done. By dawn the next day, she was outside in her pajamas snapping photos of my garbage cans. "Just making sure you're up to HOA standards," she purred. Then came the violation notices, 8 in 3 days. My mailbox, my curtains, even my landscaping were illegal modifications. She was a one-woman regulatory agency, and her campaign spread like wildfire. Suddenly, neighbors I hadn't met were staring me down like I was running a casino out of my kitchen. That I tried to stay calm, but every morning was a new escalation. Door to door, Crystal warned everyone about the criminal who'd moved in. But here's the kicker. My next-door neighbor, Bob, a retired teacher who's seen it all, finally gave me the inside scoop. "That used to be her house," he said over coffee on my deck. "Lost it in the divorce. Never got over it." Suddenly, it clicked. The way she stared at my place, the details she knew, her obsession with control. This wasn't about HOA rules. It was personal. She wanted her life back, and I was standing in the way. But Crystal had another secret. She didn't own the house she was living in now. She rented it. And every time someone asked about repairs or landlords, she clammed up. So, one afternoon, curiosity got the better of me. I started knocking on doors, listening to stories. Crystal had reported an old man for unauthorized tomatoes in his yard, fined a veteran for a too large American flag, even filed noise complaints against a baby. She wielded power through paranoia and pettiness, but always with the same refrain. "I have connections." People were scared of her, but mostly, they just wanted her to leave them alone. By Tuesday, it was all-out war. Crystal mapped my house in red, printed timelines of my crimes, like ordering pizza after dark, and started a campaign on every neighborhood app, painting me as some kind of identity-thieving kingpin. My phone blew up with worried messages from my parents and girlfriend, all wondering if I'd lost my mind. I almost did, but then, a twist so good it could have been scripted. Thursday morning, I spotted a property management truck outside Crystal's place. The logo looked familiar, too familiar. And that's when it hit me. My own LLC, Northern Lakes Property Management. The same company I'd used to buy a rental house months ago. That afternoon, the mailman delivered a rent check addressed to me. Not to Jacob Mitchell, but to my company, signed by Crystal Henderson. The woman tormenting me was my tenant. I called my attorney, Lisa, to double check. Jacob, your tenant for the past 6 months has been Crystal Henderson, aka Crystal Stewart. Pays on time, never complains. A perfect tenant until you moved in. That's when I realized every single rent check she'd sent went straight into my account. She was funding the very legal fees I was using to defend myself against her. Crystal's campaign only ramped up. She called a neighborhood meeting, parading her binder of evidence like she was taking me to court. Half the neighborhood showed up. She accused me of everything from running an illegal business to destroying property values. People nodded along, others whispered. It felt like a witch trial, and I was the witch. I barely slept. My nerves were shot, and I honestly thought about selling and walking away. But something snapped in me. Maybe it was pure stubbornness, maybe pride. I decided to fight back. I gathered all the evidence. The rent checks, security footage of her trespassing, the barrage of violation notices, her rants online. All of it. I filed an eviction notice for harassment, invited Officer Harris and my property manager to witness, and scheduled a face-to-face with Crystal. She strutted into the meeting ready for battle, but the second I told her, "You've been my tenant for 6 months, paying rent to my company," her face fell like a house of cards. Harris and the property manager showed her the documents, her signature on the lease, every bank record. She sputtered, denied, called it a conspiracy. But the truth was right there in black and white. She'd spent a week trying to ruin the life of the guy who owned her roof. That was the climax. But Crystal, true to form, wasn't going quietly. She screamed about revenge, swore she'd expose me, threatened lawsuits, the works. But as Harris calmly explained, "Ma'am, you're being evicted for harassment, filing false claims, and creating a hostile environment." The fight finally went out of her. And then, the internet got a hold of it. Videos leaked. Neighbors' cell phones caught her meltdown. Memes exploded. Woman Harris's new neighbor. Turns out he's her landlord. She became a punchline overnight. Local news called. Social media feasted. The old neighbors she'd harassed for years started sharing their stories. Turns out, I wasn't the first target, just the last straw. Within days, property values jumped. Realtors started advertising Whispering Pines as the friendliest, most famous HOA in America. Bob was elected new HOA president. The rules changed. No more weaponizing bylaws. Crystal, meanwhile, left in disgrace, her internet infamy following her to some tiny town far away. Now, I sit on my deck, lake glistening, neighbors waving. The guy with the tomato plants brings over fresh salsa, the veteran's flag flies high, and the new tenants, a young family, fill Crystal's old house with laughter and noise. I learned sometimes the best revenge is just letting the truth do its thing. Let bullies write their own downfall, because karma, when it lands hard. And here's what I want to know. Have you ever had a neighbor from hell? Where's the line between protecting your peace and going too far? Tell me in the comments if you've seen justice serve itself up cold, or if you think I should have handled things differently. Like, share, subscribe, because around here, real stories are stranger than fiction, and sometimes the best endings are the ones you never see coming.